Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Folks, listen. There's a reason that some men are angry, and I don't advocate anger for strategic reasons, but sisters, I'm gonna tell you something. Honestly, black men have valid reasons to be angry. Now, I don't really care much about the white Western community. As a matter of fact, like Mumia, Obsidian Ali said, I don't think that the black community is going to make it. I would like for it to, but I just don't think that the black community will make it. And since we ain't going to make it, I want our oppressors to vanish with us. Justice demands it. But at the end of the day, when we're done with this, it's about our community, what we gonna do. And we're losing. And I can't sit up here and put this on the men. The men are losing for a different set of reasons. We're losing because of the worst of our ladies. Of course, not all black women can be part of the problem. We're losing, though, because the ones who aren't part of the problem are still very unknowing or very reluctant to get on the ones who are part of the problem. A few of them are. Kendra D's one. I forgot the name of another one that I knew yesterday. And so I say these things without hatred of women, but yesterday I tried to record something on the flaws of black men, and I did record it. Well, at the end of the day, I had to admit that every flaw that men have is paid for. It's not that we don't have them, it's just that we don't get away with them. There's no ease and convenience while we bring all of these flaws to these relationships. We are called on every flaw we've got. We're called on flaws that we don't have at times. Mark Gomez was seen as a bad reflection of black men in this country. Automatically. It turned out he overreacted, but he didn't just assault somebody unprovoked, just beat up on black women, and the guys holding the camera weren't even black. So we were blamed for things that we didn't have a part in. There's no reason, actually, for us to start talking about men's flaws, not because they don't exist, but because we don't get away with them. It's just like people wanting to compare Pookie and Ray Ray to police brutality. Well, if Pookie shoots Ray Ray, he goes to jail for it if the police can catch him. If a cop shoots someone on camera, he may not even go to jail. That's the big difference. Well, that's the same thing here. In the black community, and it happens in the white community too, but I'm glad it happens to them. But in the black community, any flaw that men have is called out, and any flaw that women have is overlooked. And that's real. So men in general in the West, but especially black men, and that's what I'm talking about right now, have every reason to get angry and every reason to get upset. And honestly, look, it's like this. It's a 13% failure rate. 13% success rate when men do approach women. This is known. A study showed that men had a 13% success rate. Anything else in this world in which you fail 80% of the time is considered to be unworth trying. If this had been known when I was a teenager, a lot of guys, by the time they were 19, would have stopped trying, and women would have wised the hell up. Or not. Whatever the case is, and some women say, well, women don't like you so well. Yeah, women have the right not to, but see, the men also have the same right, but that's not talked about. And the other thing, too, is this. What I'm talking about here is the message that's being sent despite what the realities are. 87% failure rate, but the message being sent is men shouldn't give up. Man, the hell with that. Men should be angry because of what we're hearing. But the other thing, too, is that Mumia Obsidian Ali brought up another valid point. And that is that at the end of the day, when you finally get down to it, the society is taking male sexual desires that are normal and trying to criminalize them and shame people for them. This is not acceptable. And women's are being placed on a pedestal and not a priority. And so it becomes a case of, instead of both and being satisfied, it becomes a case of either one or the other being satisfied, but not both and. And Mumia has the right to be angry, and he's just one example, because what I'm saying is that the other guys that are angry, and frankly, we're lucky that there's a stage past anger for them to go to. I don't recommend going through the anger stage, only because I don't like the idea of it clouding one's judgment. But at the end, but it's still, when the rubber hits the road, that anger is right, it is justified, and it is not men's fault. Men, like I've said, have never been that complex. And the one flaw for which I probably should have done more justice than men have when I recorded yesterday is the flaw of being too goddamn effing easy on these ladies. Now I'm going to tell you something that happened in South Africa that I found out about recently to illustrate a point. In South Africa, there are Muslims, and they usually don't live in small towns. They live in bigger cities. These Muslims know about the West because the cities are just as westernized as anywhere else. And they are sick and tired. So they don't make approaches. So what they do is, instead of making the approaches, they just simply focus on getting their money. I'm talking about the young Muslim men. They go and they get that money. And if they decide after getting the money that they still just have to get married, then they will travel somewhere and marry a Muslim lady not from their own country. If you are a Muslim father of a daughter, South African, and you want your daughter to marry a South African and not somebody from a third world nation, undeveloped nation, you're going to have to get out there and make the approaches yourself to find a husband for that daughter of yours. And that's what's going on right now. Because bottom line, they're not making approaches. This has taught the fathers a serious lesson. And it has taught some of these ladies a serious lesson too. Yes, lower your damn standards to a reasonable level, but lower them. And put aside the materialism. It's time to go, folks. Assalamu alaikum.